You made it a long ways. Your shed is just about done. This is the 3D view, so let's click on floor plan so we can add our final annotations. So right now I have mine set to thin lines. If yours shows up thick like this, you want to go to view and then thin lines so we can see all the detail. And we need to add annotations showing how wide our shed is from top to bottom, left to right, and then how big our room is. But first, if we're looking at thin lines and we have this set to fine detail, then I can double check and make sure my walls are correct. I can see this wall here has 2 layers on the inside. That means it's inside out. So if I click these arrows, I can change the orientation. And now the wall is in the correct orientation. So if I look sort of around the edges, I'm clicking and holding down the center mouse wheel to click and drag around this, and they all look good. So I'm checking those walls, they look good. I'm checking the interior walls, and I make sure that it says interior shed wall. I see only 2 layers on this. That looks good. Last, check your windows. This window looks like it's inside out. You can see the window sills on the outside of the building. So if I click it, the double arrows should always be on the outside of the building. And they're not in my crop box right now, so I'm not able to see them, but they do in fact exist. They will probably show up on the opposite side of yours. So now let's put our annotations in. So if we click annotate and then aligned, right now it's default set to wall center line. That's actually how we built our shed. So again, I'm just scrolling out. I'm using the center mouse wheel, clicking and dragging to move this image. And I'm going to go center wall, put that dimension out here. And then I'm going to go left to right. And you can see that dotted line just appears in the middle of the wall. And put that up here. Now I want to see how big this room is, but I can't go center to center for the room. That doesn't really help me out. So I need to change this to wall face. And you're going to use this a lot in your residential house. So I go face to face. And I'm going to put that actually outside of that and face to face. And then I'm going to modify, actually would like it better if this is on the inside edge. Seems like it's a little bit cleaner. So that looks pretty good. The last thing we need to check is make sure that this doorway is in the range of 4 to 6 inches from this wall. So we'll do annotate one last time, aligned, make sure it says wall face, and go from the door to the wall. It says 5 1/4 inches. That's pretty good. Now, if your shed room here, the storage closet, is small, you don't want your door opening in. That's a bad idea. So we could flip this and move it over here. And now I'm going to delete this dimension. That doesn't really help us. And check this dimension. Well, that's 8 3/4. So now I can just click this and use the left arrow key until I'm within that 4 to 6 inch range there, 4 3/4. So that's a good value right there. So it's important that you have your door at a reasonable range. Remember when we framed, it had to be, you have to leave room for trim and your king studs and your jack studs and the finishing trim on the outside edge of the door. So you have to have space. You'll probably want to check this door as well on yours. And that should be all that we need for annotations on this. You also need to put an annotation on your south elevation. Hopefully your south elevation is the one that is on your sheet in my awesome shed here. So to do a slope, we go to annotate and then spot slope. And now we can change our slope representation. Right now it's an arrow. Typically we're going to see these as triangles. So I can change it to triangle and place it here, one click. My second click will actually move it to the top edge. So that shows a 5/12 pitch for that triangle and with a 1/16 offset. So if we now look at our sheet, then I can see that I have my 5/12 pitch right there. And I can see that on my sheet, I have the fine detail view of this, and I have all my annotations listed on there. And on your final sheet, you're going to have a lot more of these things annotated based off the rubric. Make sure you also include insulation in the ceiling of the roof, because that is part of the design constraints. Insulation should be in the ceiling right on here. And then you should be ready to go to the next video.